And we should also highlight that there's a number of people who aren't here tonight who would have really liked to be here. And first and foremost, I just want to mention Chris Foster and his wife, who've had a baby, came home today. So we're looking forward to 2 more young cyclists joining us quite soon, knowing Chris. But also, Louisa's really, really keen to be here. She really desperately wants to be here, but she's decided to go to Japan instead. Chris Rich is away, and Charles is away, and Jeff's away. So there's a bunch of people who, also wanting to be here and would have added to that group. So it's, it is great to see a wide range of the group represented here tonight. Just thinking about this year for the club, actually, it's been a really important year for the club, I think. We've now got 81 paid up members. We've had 15 new members join the club this year, and we can continue to see that slow growth of the club coming through, which is really great, and helps us just continue with that idea of getting people cycling who don't want to be part of an elite cycling club and one of the those more sort of road, race-focused end of the scale. So that's been important, and at the backbone of everything we do, obviously, is the rides we do on a Saturday morning. And just as a sort of first thanks of the evening, I want to say a big thank you for Andy Howe for making that possible. We are so lucky because we get a great range of routes through from Andy, and as everyone's come to learn, when Andy says flattish, it means it's going up a bit, and when he says rolling, it means you really want to get that 34 sprocket cassette on the back of the bike. So thanks for that, and also thanks to all the ride leaders who go out and help make sure that people get around the course successfully. So it is the heart of what we do, but it's not what we only do. We have a few things that we do through the year that are really important to us. The sportif being the most obvious thing. We had 130 people this year do that. That all goes towards props. And we did have some pretty ropey weather, so and even though I did promise the day before it would be sun shining, that didn't work out in the end. But the sportifs is an important part of what we do. We've done our velodrome trip again this year, and a few people went to the velodrome for the first time, and that's, if anyone hasn't done that, it's worth doing at least once, because it's a hell of an experience, cycling above other people and wondering why you're not falling down. And we did, for the first time this year, we did our treasure hunt in September, and I think the people who went to that will say that it went really well, that event. And again, thank you to Lucy and Alexander for putting the effort into organising the questions for that. I know it was a bit controversial. Some people got a bit stressed with the judges for accepting pictures of animals and animals, didn't they, Richard? but there you go. That's what we did. So we've done some good stuff this year, and people individually on their own trips outside the club have done some great cycling this year. Stuart's here. Stuart did Land's End to Donna Groats this year. A number of us have been cycling in various strange locations. I know Patrick was out in Croatia cycling this year. A few of us have been out in the Alps. Nick and Richard and Matt Townsend were out doing some of the spring classics earlier in the year. Sally and I had a great trip to Japan. So we did, there's lots of people in the club out there doing some really interesting stuff on bikes outside of the club, and apologies if I've missed anyone. There's also a couple of things we've done in the club that this year for the first time that have been helpful to us, and the most important of that is that British Cycling introduced a protocol for clubs this year where every club has to have a safeguarding officer, and what most people here won't know is that Kath, wherever she is our safeguarding officer, and I want to say thanks to Kath for stepping into that. if anyone is concerned about the safeguarding issue, we can put you in touch with Kath, and she'll take you through the cycling protocols on that. The other thing that we've done is it's been really helpful is get the WhatsApp group going this year. So that's been a big development, as it has for lots of us in lots of different aspects of our lives. I just wanted to highlight that and take the opportunity to remind people that it's a cycling club WhatsApp group. Which sometimes gets forgotten.
Eggate. No.
It was all right. I'll call me for the Eggate later, I'll tell you that.
The other thing I just wanted to mention is that we continue to be pretty lucky with cycling relating incidents. So we've had a couple of things, a couple of riders have a couple of issues this year. I mean, Kath had a really bad crash that she's thankfully recovered back out with us, and that's great. This year, Mr. Stone has had a hip replacement this year, but has
non-cycling related.
Not cycling, but it's good to see you back out on the bike despite that.
And going down Dundry Hills.
Triv's been off the bike for, it must be 3 months now, but hopefully he's back on soon. But worse than all of that, I actually broke my DI2 shifters.
Oh.
So all those injuries pale to nothing.
He didn't even have to do a walk of shame though.
I did have to do a walk of shame. You're all right. Yeah, so we've had a few little incidents, but really not many. We've been quite lucky, I'd say, on that front. Just thinking about next year briefly, then there's a few things that we want to build on, develop. I suppose the most important thing when it comes to Saturday is that we started introducing the idea of trying to coordinate some rides where some of the more social riders could do a slightly shorter route. Some of the guys who want to go a bit quicker can do a slightly longer, possibly hillier route. And we can try and coordinate that so the cafe stop works really well. Now, we tried it a couple of times this year and it actually did work really well. So that's something that we want to build on for next year, because I just want to go back to this point about inclusivity. You know, the important thing for me is that we're trying to get people to get out on bikes and enjoy their time on bikes, and the more we can make that accessible to people by introducing routes that are, you know, more realistic for people who are new to cycling, then the more we will be able to do that. So that's the sort of thing that we're hoping to build on next year. I think it's fair to say that following the success of the treasure hunt, we'll definitely be running that again next year, and we could have some more rules in place about when it can happen. Yeah, we can reduce some of the stress around that. And we'll continue to support props, of course, through next year. And the support for props, you know, just to remind ourselves, is something that's pretty, I think as a club that has come out of a charity environment, and one of whose core purposes is to support the values of that charity and support that charity. That, I think that makes us rare, possibly not unique, but certainly rare in the cycling community, and that's something that we'll continue to support. So, for example, a few people are able to go out with the prop students when they go out cycling in the week, and I know Sally's done that, Mo's done that, Graham Denty is all over that. So that sort of support is very helpful. We also support with the helping with the training rides for the B2B ride, and B2B is a way that some people come to join the club, and is also a way that we support the club because club riders do B2B. So that's quite a good relationship there that we support very actively. And the other thing that we do that's very significant on that front is that we raise money for props, and this year we're able to make another donation to props from the club on behalf of all the riders who are in the club, and Mr. Townsend, wherever he is, hiding, going to say a few words on that.
So So as Matt's already explained, I think some of the things that we do here is to try and raise money. I guess we try and minimise the costs of the club, so to maximise that money that's available to then give back over to Props, the charity that we also actively support. So I guess the two main income streams that we have as a club are the membership, so that's you guys, paying your annual membership subscription to the club, and also the sporty. We are able to raise a reasonable amount of money in putting that on. So the more club members and people that you know outside the club that can be actively involved in that, it will help towards the amount of money that we've got available, that we can make available to donate to Props, the charity itself. So at this point I'd like to ask Nick Trivett as representative of Props, the charity, and I think you're going to bring two other people up with you, Nick, is that correct?
Yeah, Catherine.
Kath, Laura,
Hello.
stand up. As you the Props team.
Don't fall down.
So it does give me pleasure presenting a cheque for £4,500 from the club to the charity.
So on behalf of Props, I didn't realise I was going to have to make a speech. On behalf of Props, I'd just like to say thanks. This sort of money does make a real difference. This year we've been able to access another student to be able to keep up with the other trainees, sorry, call them students, we've changed it, they're trainees now. We've been able to purchase a electrical assisted bike, which means he can keep up with the other 3 or 4 lads. Making him more involved in the group, making him be able to ride further, achieve more than he's ever achieved before on a normal static bike. So we've now got an electric hybrid, which works absolutely superb. Just to let you know, while I've been off the bike for the last month, I have been able to access that bike. Thank you very much. So I've not been totally off the bike.
That's
I've
just
been electrically assisted on the Friday.
You still think you have to go back on a normal bike?
Yeah, so also this year the club were very giving in. They purchased a barbecue which is used throughout the charity for different events, not just the cycle club this year. So the club's also purchased a barbecue as part of the giving this year. So thank you all very much, and yeah, it was a lot.
Just on that vein, it's also, I don't think it's a bit invidious singling people out, but it is worth, I just want to highlight that Rich Adams and Neil Mannix are both also very strong supporters of Props in their own right. So as members of the club, I just wanted to thank them for the work that they do with Props. Okay, some awards. That's a hateful job, sitting around as a committee trying to work out awards and stuff. So we have 4 awards in the club. We have a Club Rider of the Year, we have a Most Improved Rider of the Year, we have a Junior Rider, and we have a Club Person of the Year. And that last award is something that we've introduced this year as a new thing, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So, Club Rider of the Year. As we've said, we're not a race club. When Club Rider of the Year doesn't mean who's the fastest on a bike. What we're trying to celebrate is people who are doing great things on a bike, but also supporting the club and being part of the club as they can. So as we think about that, there was somebody that stood out for us in that regard, particularly this year. And the Club Rider of the Year this year is somebody who really is doing incredible things as an athlete, but also when he can and pretty regularly is out with the club, taking it easy and enjoying that. So Paul Clark, would like to
making it easy for
Yeah, I think he's on a, yeah. But you have eaten 3 plates of food, haven't you?
All vegan, I hope.
No, seriously, I mean, as we all know, Paul does amazing things as an athlete, but it's just so great to see him out with the club on a Saturday morning, chilling out, not getting stressed about how slowly we're all going. And he does let me suck his wheels every now and again, which I particularly enjoyed this year, going up to Gloucester, by the way, when I spent about six miles just sat behind you, taking it very easy. So that's that first award. Next award, Most Improved Rider. And again, this is something where we're trying to think about that in the context of people getting into cycling, getting on their bikes, and people making some contribution to the spirit of the club in that way. And there are lots of people whose riding is clearly improved this year, and I'm sure they'd be the first to say that. Nick Tyler would be one. Louisa. Jack obviously has gone from obviously he's young, so he doesn't count. He should be improving in anything he does. In thinking about that, we decided that this year's award should go to somebody who probably didn't even know what Lycra was 18 months ago, never mind warning, and certainly hadn't done certainly never sat on a road bike before, and somebody who's really got into the spirit of things, and I think from memory hasn't fallen off their bike now for about 6 months, so that's a pretty good effort. So, Most Improved Rider Award is going to Mo Phillips.
speech.
So we have no speech. We've only got till midnight, they throw us out of it. 2 more awards, no more trophies. Anyway, so we were let down by the trophy. The trophy was 2 trophies meant to arrive yesterday.
Is it bigger?
Well, we could talk about that. That is part of the problem. So we have 2 more awards to give out. So and trophies are literally they're being sorted out at the moment. The first one of those is the Young Rider of the Year. Now, Young Rider of the Year this year probably won't be too much of a surprise to most people. I think one of the things as a club is that we go through waves on young riders, but the person getting this year's award, although we don't have many junior riders around at the moment, absolutely and categorically deserves this award. And I think, frankly, regardless who else would have been around, would have won this award if there'd been 50 candidates for it. He's done an absolutely fantastic job about getting involved with the club and riding really well, and that's Jack. The question becomes, what do you give a cyclist when you haven't got a trophy? You obviously give them a bag of jelly beans and a recovery bar.
And he wore a tie, man.
He wore a tie, unlike some. Standards are slipping. So the final award is this new award that we wanted to introduce, which is this club person award, and it's just about, it's really trying to really focus on, again, this idea of the club being about this concept of inclusivity and not just about the cycling per se, and giving us some point of difference. So we wanted to give an award to somebody who we feel is representing the values of the club and getting involved with the club and engaging with the club in those sort of judging that against the values that we have. And the person who, again, we thought was a sort of standout candidate here, who unfortunately can't be here tonight, is Louisa Gonzalez. So a big round of applause. And she will have a trophy when eventually it arrives. Luckily, but it will probably arrive before she does. But seriously, you know, Louisa is she's just great to be around with the club. She's always, you know, up and jolly and generally being inclusive. So you know, she will always offer to help where she can offer to help. She's actually asked us if she can become a ride leader with a particular view to helping support female riders and less experienced riders. So we're in the process of, unfortunately, we have to fit in with the British cycling cycle on ride leader training. So it's been a few months while we get that sorted out. But you know, I think it is a good example of what I think is an important award for the club to be making. So that is that. We're done. Thank you very much again, and let's just have one small toast to Prop Cycling Club and inclusive cycling. Thank you. We'll get